This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WT and the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And welcome back. It's Sunday evening.
Happy Sunday, Carrie Ann. Good to see you.
Happy Sunday. Good to see you, too.
I want to remind everybody that this show is driven by your questions. Please send those questions to questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com or hashtag Music City.
Hey, and this also is a podcast, so you can listen at your leisure at any time. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and others. Or you can also watch us on YouTube or our favorite, Facebook. Simply search The Talk of Music City.
I love our podcast. I really do.
You do?
You know, because you can watch it whenever you want to. I think that's really nice.
You can catch up if you missed us on a Sunday evening.
I know it. Sometimes I miss you, Carrie Ann, so I just pull up the podcast, you know?
You can't get enough of me, Monty. I love it.
There she is.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're excited because we've got Jim in the house with us this evening.
Hello.
Love Mr. Jim McCarthy. He's making the magic happen with our podcast, and he's a voiceover guy. He's very talented.
You guys are past the magic number of 25 episodes now.
That's
25.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So do you do different kinds of voices or just your one Studley voice?
My one Studley voice. That's interesting. Thank you for that. It's changed over the years.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, it's, conversational, and occasionally I can get the movie trailer pipes if they're cooperating.
Yeah, baby.
I love it.
All right.
That's so good.
So we're going to talk a little topical today. So what's happening, Jim? Can you talk about the influence?
What's going on in the market?
What's going on in the market?
I've actually got a Forbes article pulled up right now, Where to Invest in Housing Halfway Through 2019. Very interesting article. As I was reading through it, it's talking about, everybody's kind of worried about bubbles waiting to burst, but there's anything really talked about in there. They talk about markets that are overpriced, but the good news is that Nashville is in the category of being a very strong market with a lot of strong demand. So we're in a healthy place, and we have good company. We have Charlotte, Atlanta, Colorado Springs. I talk about the weaker economies where job growth is below the national average are Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Raleigh, and Grand Rapids. You guys want to know what the overpriced markets are?
What are they, Jim?
They are, let's see, pull it up here. We have Miami is the most overpriced market right now, which is surprising because traditionally you'd find a lot of those markets in California and New York.
Okay.
Right? And it's funny because a friend of mine actually talked about selling her and her mother's house in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And she was saying how she would be able to live in a mansion with the amount of money she'd be able to get for her house.
Amazing.
In San Diego. 2,000 square foot house going for $700,000, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing. Miami, Tampa, Denver, Boise. Boise is an overpriced market.
Wow.
Would you ever have thought that?
I've never thought about going to Boise.
Right. That's crazy.
Is that Potato Land?
It is. Famous potatoes. Austin, Northport, Bradenton. I don't even know where that is. Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and greater Los Angeles area. But the most overpriced market is Miami. At 45%
wow.
overpriced.
Well, we are blessed to be in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some folks would say that Nashville's a little overpriced, but I don't think so. I think we're healthy.
We're healthy, and we've got a lot of more influx coming in.
That's right. Amazon,
Mitsubishi, and
yeah, Smile Direct.
Smile
I think
Direct
coming this way too. So
how many
all
thousands of jobs is that?
I'm going to say that's probably almost close to 12,000 jobs.
Holy cow! That's going to make a dent in the housing market.
It's going to also make a couple dents in our traffic abilities too.
So my question
unfortunately, literally,
how does that traditionally affect the real estate market when you have influxes? They've happened in the past.
Yeah.
In the 80s, there was a huge migration out to California, 70s and 80s. How traditionally have you seen in your history of doing this, how does that affect the real estate markets?
Well, it's going to be a positive thing when it happens. The challenge, I think, what happens sometimes is, for instance, I saw it happen recently here when word came out about Amazon.
Right.
All of a sudden, home values went up. I said, like, okay, wait a minute, guys, wait a minute. It's not making a difference yet. Give it a year or two, and then it certainly will make a difference. But I saw people tighten down. I saw unrealistic expectations of what values suddenly were. Well, Amazon's coming to town, so my home value just doubled and that kind of stuff. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. So we actually saw a dip, a little bit of a dip in the market because people became less cooperative and less realistic about their expectations of what the home value should be. That was immediate experience that I saw.
So like a phantom demand,
right?
In a way.
It was all mental, but it wasn't substantial yet. It hadn't been, really created by actual buyers and actual value increase. It came by the mental idea of, wow, there's going to be thousands more people here.
And I also think too, maybe what those salaries are, right, will depend upon what type of product that they're going to be purchasing, which would determine if we have, an influx in inventory, or, if we're going to be kind of searching more on that first-time home buyer spectrum, where now, what is the price of a first-time home buyer house, right? What is that? It used to be right over $200. I mean, that's hard to find now, right?
It's real hard to find.
So you have to go on the outskirts, and you're pushed more into the rural areas, and maybe it's going to take you a little bit longer to drive, into where you have to commute a little bit.
And I've seen this happen over the last few years, especially where some areas of town were less desirable than others, but now it seems to be primarily price point driven, which is demographic driven. It means that a lot of the people coming to town still, even though they're coming from, in some cases, California and other more expensive areas, they're still coming in buying the $250, $300, $350 price point. That's what they're looking for. And that's what caused this huge discrepancy of what you get for $300 versus what you get for $500. You'd think you'd get, 2 times more for a $300,000, a $600,000, and a $300,000. It doesn't work at all like that because there's so much more pressure on the lower price points that they're getting crazy numbers, some cases, dollar per square foot, versus if you're able to afford a $500,000 or more home.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
And I think the price points are depending. I mean, Amazon, I'm not sure of all of the jobs that are coming over, but are those more of the higher end jobs for Amazon? And I think they're maybe going to be downtown.
I think they're going to be across the board.
Across the board?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
And Smile Direct, too, I think those are a lot of tech jobs, I think. And with the car industry, I don't know, is that more plant-based, or are those still...
I want to say it's probably more corporate.
Corporate-based?
Yeah,
okay.
Corporate.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that Nissan owned... I think about 35% of
I didn't know that either.
And I think that's the reason why they're coming here, is they want to group everybody together, get them closer together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have another interesting article here. You and I talked about it before we went on the air. It's just rude. Nashville homeowners annoyed by text messages from developers.
Text messages?
Text messages. There are developers going around to hot areas of the market, text messaging the owners of properties, leaving notes on cars. Hey, do you want to sell your house?
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
So they can get the land to redevelop it? Interesting.
I think that's another effect that the Amazon effect is having on the market.
Oh, where they can maybe put multiple units,
Absolutely.
Do some townhome communities and things. What's also interesting is what is selling? Single family homes, townhomes. I was down in Murray County this past week, and it was interesting, where Murray County, the taxes are lower. It's 3 miles. It only took me 20 minutes to get there from the Franklin area. And it was really an easy drive, and to know that things are not the attached unit, for that particular area may not be selling as fast as you and I would see it in a different area, So it's interesting where if you are developing land and, what type of unit are you putting there? And that's where you and I are now finding the mixed use developed properties, where you're going to have your condos and your townhomes and your single families all combined because you have an assortment, because you don't know which one's going to take.
There too.
Right, with the commercial piece. Yeah, that's huge as well, which is definitely boosting the interest for some people to be there. The one-stop shop. You get your grocery, you got your supplies, you've got your restaurants, everything right there, walking distance, which makes it nice for sure.
So speaking of topical events here at the moment, this is not off topic. It's really what we're here for, to talk about real estate and current events that are affecting real estate. But just this morning I saw where a national builder has joined arms with a company called Open Door. Okay, that's going to be an interesting, interesting situation. Open Door is one of those iBuyer companies that comes in and offers folks a cash price. Another company has joined Open Door, and that's Redfin.
Interesting.
So that's going to be something that I'm really interested in watching to how that's going to affect things, because most folks know that Redfin's in town out there offering a discounted service, and now Open Door's coming in and offering a low offer. I don't know how the two of them are going to marry one another, and they recognize that they're really on not opposing forces, but they're not really on each other's side, but they recognize they'll do more business if they team up.
Interesting. Now, what would the builder need Open Door for?
Well, that way, they don't know about ribbon, apparently.
Oh.
Okay, so what they're trying to sell that idea on is you won't have to worry about making your home contingent upon the sale of your home because you have a buyer here.
Right. And for those that don't know about Ribbon, Ribbon's a new company in town as well that will help you purchase your dream home before you sell. So they do the flip. So they allow you the time to sell it at the top price at market price.
I love Ribbon.
Yeah.
Not so much these other companies.
We won't get you started here.
I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that is a current event that I think that we have to pay attention to as real estate professionals, is what's going to happen when these disruptors get together and continue to.
I think it's a great thing that so many companies want to be here. I know they're getting some tax benefits to be here. I think the more we invest in our local community and our economy, the more that we all can do. So I think it's a huge
exciting
win. It definitely is. And to be the #1 bachelorette location, it's a big deal here in Middle Tennessee. It is. Hey, thank you so much for listening. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to continue this talk and more questions. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group, Music City.
Hey, Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Great to see you, Carrie Anne.
So good to be here. This is a lot of fun. This Sunday evening, we're talking about topical things. I laughed at that word.
I think there's a lot of great things happening in Middle Tennessee. I know that for sure. And all these new jobs coming to town. It's certainly going to help our business. It's going to take a little time to make it happen. I think that's the summary.
We can get to our office with the traffic.
The summary of that topic is it doesn't happen overnight as far as increased values. The traffic will happen before the values happen, probably,
Yes. But if we use our 5-minute rule that we learned from our friend over with Hal Elrod, we will know that it's just going to be a good day, whether we're in traffic or not.
That's right. We'll be the happiest person sitting in that line of traffic. Right?
Absolutely. And hopefully you're downloading your most favorite podcast and learning something new, for sure.
Right. I do want to remind everybody this show is driven by your questions. So please send those questions, large or small, into questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com or #TalkMusicCity.
So we've got a great question here. It just says, please help. We're putting our home on the market this year, and my husband is insisting on using his mother as our agent.
Uh-oh.
She got her license recently, and I'm sure she has not even sold one home yet. I'm concerned about her not knowing what to do, and I want to find someone more experienced. He says we have to use her or we will hurt her feelings. Please help. I don't know what to do. Sign, your soon-to-be the bad daughter-in-law. Too funny.
Bless her heart.
What do you think?
We do see that a lot when folks think that they need to use a family member or the piano player at church or the termite guy's best friend's aunt's sister's long-lost friend who got a real estate license. I'm a believer that you really need to go. This is a big deal, buying and selling real estate.
Right.
And I don't think it's a time to really be more interested in helping somebody's career than it is with getting done what's most important to you in that process. A lot of things can happen. You have seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things. We both have picked up the pieces from a lot of things that didn't start off right. How many mortgages were turned down in your experience that you were able to get to the finish line?
Right.
And part of that was because somebody not really as qualified was trying to put that together. And same thing with the real estate part of it. And I know that's an awkward position, and nobody wants to be the bad daughter-in-law or son-in-law for certain. What I would recommend, coming from this standpoint, because again, I've picked up those pieces, I have an opinion on that. But what I would do, and I'm not against the newer agent, I promise you, not against mom-in-law who got her license. I am against the idea of that being the qualifying factor, though, and not a skill level that will ensure to getting to the finish line. So what I would recommend here in this situation to be a peacemaker probably is consider consider first of all getting a referral from somebody you trust. If you don't have somebody that has had a recent experience with a local real estate professional, then interview 3 agents. Look at around your neighborhood, see who's got some signs up, who's familiar with the neighborhood. Interview those 3, and then in the process of deciding, let them know that, look, we all want to be peacemakers. We all want to do a great job here as well, though. So this is what I'm asking of you, Mr. or Mrs. Professional Real Estate Agent. I'm asking you to pay my mother-in-law a 25% referral fee or something like that.
Sure.
Okay? I mean, that gives the mom-in-law some connection and, maybe a backseat position in the process or some reward in that so that we're not just turning our back. I mean, otherwise, it might be looking for, some mentoring in that scenario or some support from, if she's part of a team, that's another story.
Right.
If she's getting mentorship in that company, that could be another story.
Right.
But too often, the real estate professional doesn't have or doesn't take advantage of a lifeline, to get those critical answers, those questions answered. So I'm a believer, first of what's most important is getting to the finish line on time, as I know you are. That doesn't happen just because somebody's got a real estate license. It doesn't happen just because somebody's got a mortgage broker's license. It happens intentionally, and it is helpful if there's experience behind that intention.
Right. And I think if you do decide to move forward, because I do think everybody needs to start somewhere. So
there you go with your compassion.
I know.
Again,
I do want to have a comfortable Thanksgiving dinner where everybody is getting along. So I might be the one to say maybe the flip to that, but understand that there is a lot that goes into this. So when you reference having a mentor, maybe the flip where that individual is making the most, but somebody that they can ask lots of questions to, and knowing that this is just my second transaction, and I'm working through it with my kids, and I want to do the best job that I can. So if you are the children, knowing that there's a lot that goes into it, and that there could be some bumps along the way, and you may not get everything that you expected. So if you go into it that way, then that's cool. Then the flip, you may educate mom on, maybe teaming up with someone like you referenced, and not just handing it over, but really working through as this is an opportunity to learn something new.
It could be splitting it 50-50.
Yeah.
Let's split this but have somebody who's been there and done that
right.
in their corner.
And also my big thing is let people know that you're new in the industry. I had a situation just recently, and again, I assume everybody knows everything. I don't know. I just hear your voice. So if you come across confident, I'm going to assume you've been in the business a really long time. And I had a gentleman who did not tell me that he just got in the business. Well, he was walking his clients into the Kroger at the Western Union to transfer the money, for the closing transaction, and they couldn't find, our mortgage firm, right? So I quickly picked up because of that at 7:00 at night, and everybody's freaking out why they can't find the mortgage firm at the Western Union, that he was brand new in the industry, right? So if he shared that early, I would kindly educate everybody through, because I think sometimes what things that are so easy and roll off the tongue of the experienced need more education to somebody who's not aware, right? Through that. We don't take the time to go through the basics every single time with the real estate agent, because we just assume they know. So if you are somebody that is new and you take on the transaction, just communicate that, with the lender too. And don't feel bad about it, because if you're working with a really good lender, they're going to hold your hand through it. Again, we all are in this together. I think it takes a village to close a transaction, and the more that we can help out each other is a good thing for sure.
I agree 1,000%, Carrie Anne. I would rather a newer agent say, look, this is my first one, or I've only closed a couple of them, or whatever. I'd rather know that going into what I've learned to have to do, unfortunately or fortunately, is pull up that person's activity in MLS, and just so I know who I'm talking with.
Sure, right.
Do I throw all my trust into that experience, or am I cautious in the process to interpret based on that person's actual experience? I think that's important. But many times we have found somebody's brand new and said, look, we'll take care of that part. Okay, let us take care of it. We'll do everything. Let's make sure, because, one of the conversation I'll have a lot of times with another agent is, look, I know you're representing your side. I'm representing my side, but let's do something even better for everybody. And that is represent the integrity of the transaction at a higher level.
Oh, okay.
Where everybody's working for everybody's peace of mind, that it's actually a win-win experience. Win-win for everybody. Because nobody wants to see a loser in that situation.
Oh, no.
One way we do it is embrace your thought, and that is it takes a village.
I'm a big believer in communication. So
Amen.
Even with the mother-in-law, you want to, or the mother, you want to communicate, up front.
I think after talking that through, I think that your idea of bringing in a senior partner in that experience, I think would be the solution in that. I think that's a great idea. So your empathy worked again.
Yes, I got it. I got it right. I love it.
We got
a good question here. What is this one?
We have another question here. I'm putting my condo on the market next month, and some friends said I should offer to pay the buyer's closing costs. Is that a good idea? Thank you for your feedback, Carla in Bellevue. Thank you, Carla, first of all.
Yes, Carla. So closing cost. Is it a good idea?
Personally, I think that if you do offer to pay closing costs, it becomes a gift. I think most agents are astute enough in the industry to negotiate those costs. In other words, if somebody says, I'll pay the closing costs for your buyer, now that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of reduction just happened right off the bat, whether they need those closing costs or not. I think an experienced agent's going to know, well, hey, I will offer you this price, but we're going to have some closing costs. I would not put that in writing.
Not in writing. Hey, so we're going to take a short break, but we're going to continue our conversation here on the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Carrie Anne, I love answering listeners' questions.
Yes.
I guess it's viewers if they're on our favorite Facebook page, the Talk of Music City.
Absolutely.
I love these questions, though. I think it just, I don't know what it is. It's about, I can always tap into an experience. I think maybe it has something to do with it. We've got a great question here from Sissy G in Gallatin. Thank you, Sissy. Says, hello, Carrie Ann and Monty. Our neighbors have offered to sell us their home. He said he's willing to hold a second mortgage to help us buy the place with what little money we have. Can you explain how that would work? We don't understand what that means. The home is $300,000. We only have $3,000, but he said he would hold whatever else he needed in a second mortgage. I don't know what that means, but we love his home. Can we buy it this way? Thank you for your help, Sissy G.
That's a great question. We haven't done seller financing in a long time.
No.
We did a lot of that back in the day.
Yeah. But holding a second mortgage, how does the first one, let's say she came to you, or she and her husband came to you and said, and shared that scenario, what would you recommend how it would be structured, Carrie Ann? Because the first mortgage holder, they're looking at their risk factor, as long as the person qualifies, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at, again, credit qualified buyers.
Right.
And so that will determine what loan to value and what type of loan we're looking at doing.
So in other words, based on their credit would be how much he would have to hold in a second mortgage. Assuming
and if they even approve for that type of loan. Right. So it's not a slam dunk that option is even doable, for them. Mm-hmm. It may be that they can only go one direction or another. But again, it also depends upon the parameters of the second. It would have to be secure. We have to, create a note and go through all of that. And so
right, but the owner of the home is going to hold that. So
right, but we still have to go through all that process. So the paperwork has to make sure that they qualify, for all of that.
For the total mortgage.
Combined, right? Correct. The combined total, exactly. And then the parameters on that second have to be, approved as well. So how long is it just going to be, a simple interest loan? Is it going to be amortized over a period of time, et cetera? So making sure that everything is, if everything is qualified, that could be an option depending upon the type of loan that they do.
Okay. It would have to be conventional, wouldn't it?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Would it have to be a monthly payment accruing?
Yes, right, absolutely.
You couldn't just say, okay, I'll hold this mortgage for the next 5 years without a payment.
No, I mean, they have that with, THDA doesn't have a payment, but there is a requirement to pay it back. So that is on the FHA type of loan. So I would have to double check those guidelines in regard to it. Like I said, seller financing is not one
something that
doesn't come up on a regular basis.
No,
so we would have to kind of go back in. I'm a little cut acquired on the question here, so I apologize. But again, like we said, we did that a lot in the past. You're not going to find a lot of sellers that are willing to hold a second, but if they do, we can walk them through the process and making sure that they do qualify that for that particular deal. But a lot of people, come in and they say, oh, I've got the seller willing to do this. Like right now, I've got a deal going on, and it's actually a renter purchasing the home that they've been living in. And the gentleman that owns the property was willing to give him back rents received over the last 12 months, towards their down payment and things. And so in that case, it would be basically the same difference. However, in the loan world, you can only give the difference between what they've paid in rent and the current market rent, right? And so if there's not a huge difference there's not an extra credit that can come back. So
in other words, if somebody's paying $1,500 a month and the fair market rent is $1,200 a month, that would be an accumulation of $300 per month.
Correct.
Times 12 months would be $3,600.
Right, and that's all that the seller could credit back.
I got you.
Through the down payment incentive there. But yes, if someone is looking to, and if they find a seller that's willing to do a seller held second, there are specific loans that we can look into and help walk you through that.
So check this out. The way I got it's always comical to me when I hear realtors in today's world talk about getting creative, because there's some creativity here for certain. Typically today, when agents talk about creativity, it's getting the seller to agree to, or the buyer to let the seller stay in an extra week or something like that. That's kind of as creative as it gets nowadays, it seems like. So back in the day when I got started, imagine this: my first several closings involved me. Back in the day, all you had, of course, you had a big old, before even MLS books, we had just a stack of paper, okay? With one picture on it. You called the seller directly and you scheduled the appointment, okay? You didn't have a showing or anything like that. And it also had the financing ingredients in there. NAQ stood for non-assumable qualification, okay? Remember back in the, do you ever remember
it might be before my time.
I know it's before your time. But there was this thing that you could literally assume a loan. You could file bankruptcy today. Okay, it's assumable non-qualifying.
Right.
Loans before 1988, I believe is the date, FHA or VA. So my job was to go in the MLS, look for non-assumable qualifying loans.
Okay.
Okay, with equity enough for them to hold a second mortgage, and then be willing. Okay, so imagine this. And my average sale price was $64,000. That's how I made the big money back then. And let's say they owed $20,000, and so the $43,000, there was $64,000. So the difference of let's say in this case $44,000, they would hold literally 100% second mortgage of the $44,000.
Okay.
At a 12% interest rate, and then they would discount it 18% discount to generate enough cash for the closing.
Wow.
And you would amortize that for 30 years with a 5-year balloon. So that's how I got started. So when I hear agents talking about getting creative, so again, what I had to do is find a non-qualifying assumable mortgage with a seller who was willing to hold a second mortgage and walk away with no money at closing.
Sure.
Because the money that was accumulated through the discounting of that second mortgage was used to pay the realtor.
Right.
Okay. So anyhow, it's a whole different world now, as you know. But
yeah, and we don't see a lot of seller-held seconds. We're going to find ways to see if we could do 100% financing for this client, or minimal money out of pocket for this client. We've got options where you can crowdfund your down payment, through methods that include everybody, associated.
I love that
so
format.
There's a lot of different ways that we can help the client now get into the house with minimal out of pocket.
So we haven't talked about crowdfunding for some time. Can we talk about this for a second?
Sure.
Because I think that is to me, that's right up there with ribbon, as far as a value to the community. A rich uncle, with ribbon. And this crowdfunding has got multiple rich uncles,
Yeah.
And what is the amount that they can give? First of all, just go ahead and describe how that works.
Yeah, so our crowdfunding platform that we have through CMG Financial, and it's exclusive just to CMG Financial right now with the agencies Fannie and Freddie, but it is a conventional loan and allows you to go and work with all of your family and friends and crowdfund your down payment versus going to one individual and getting a large gift. So the brides love it, where they can have all of their guests, put their gift towards purchase of a home. So that's a great option. Why register a department store when you can register at the company that we have called Home Fund It? Now, it's very similar to other crowdfunding platforms. However, we don't charge any transaction fees, so it is free. So 100% of the money that you raise goes right back to you
That's
towards
incredible.
the down payment of your home. And so you can get $10 from Uncle Joe and $100 from Aunt Sue, and it can go on from there. And it can be family and friends. You create a social media profile and story that you can share to everybody, and you can send it out to your church members, to your fraternity brothers, to your sorority sisters, to all of your cousins and
That's
aunts
amazing.
and uncles, and
That's
etc.
incredible.
So
how much can they give?
Well, actually, you can raise as much as you want, and this is not just for first-time homebuyers; it's for anybody. So you can use the minimum down payment on that program is 3%. But again, you can put as much money as
But
you
how
want
much
down.
could Uncle Bill and Aunt Sue contribute?
Oh, so the nice thing about this program, and a lot of people, especially if maybe they're of an older age or they just don't want the lender to be getting into their business, when you do a gift from a third party, you usually have to go through a lot of documentation, which
You have to prove
includes
where
a
that money
fully
came
executed gift letter, right? You have to prove that the donor has the funds, and you have to see the paper trail of all of that. When it comes to using Home Fund It through our crowdfunding platform, you just have to swipe a credit card per se. You're on there typing in, but you basically check a box if it's contingent on purchasing a home or non-contingent gift. And so that is to just protect you that if they end up not purchasing a home in the next 12 months, that money goes back to you. But if they do purchase a home, that money can go directly to the home buyer. And then there's no gift documentation. So
Wow.
that's up to $7,500. So that's a huge win for
Wow.
both the donor, the person that is giving the money, and also the borrower. So
without that, if somebody's donating $1,000, they've got to prove where that came from.
normally, yes. And right now, been dealing this past week with a donor that does not want to show proof of anything.
Right.
And I get that. I
Right.
get that frustration. And certain programs, government programs, require us now to show proof that the donor had the funds to give. You would assume if they wrote a check that they had the funds to give, but they make you go through that extra step with proving that through a bank statement or a
Right.
transaction
Some people
history.
just feel they don't want to expose all that or share all
Right. And so
that.
that's a great option through our crowdfunding platform that they don't have to go the extra step on that. But again, weddings, graduation, college graduations, right? If you're starting out, if you can purchase a home, if I purchased a home back when I was in my young 20s, life would be a little different today. If I invested and reinvested that money in home ownership. So this program is one that's definitely helping a lot of families gain home ownership through providing their down payment through a crowdfunding platform.
I love that idea. I love that tool. I think any young person should really look at this and see how that can be utilized to help them purchase a home early in life.
Absolutely. And if you want more information, check out homefundit.com, and then you can reference and look for Carrie Ann there. But a great program. It's helping a lot of families gain home ownership. So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation and answering all of your great questions. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group, Music City.
Hey, Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Love answering these questions, Carrie Anne. I appreciate so much the viewers. I keep saying viewers, the listeners, sending these questions
Yes,
in. And remember,
thank you.
that's questions@talkmusiccity.com or #MusicCity.
And just remember that because you're driving down the road right now, probably listening to us, or maybe on the app. That is a good place, but you can't be on your phone anymore. So you're going to have to wait till you get home.
Oh, man. And I wear a headset now.
I'm surprised. I'm really working hard on that. But they say it does take, 28 days to create a habit?
I'm not really willing to go there. I had to search far and wide for me to find a headset that fit on my big pumpkin head.
In the car?
Yeah.
Oh, look at you go.
It's working.
Well, thank goodness that I think my truck died just in time.
Yeah.
because there's nothing fancy about an '03 truck. There's no like hands-free nothing in an '03
You know
truck
what-
that I drove for years.
You know what was fancy about that? Somebody at your level in life, driving that old puppy. It was like an old friend, I guess, so wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, cars aren't my thing, so
Yeah, I get
now
it.
diamonds, on the other hand, no, I'm just joking. Yeah, I mean, you just, I'm just been raised to save my money. If
it's-
it's not broken, you don't need it.
That's
so
right.
I just waited till literally it broke and the side door fell off, and it was time.
Well, it was the tears in the rainstorm that concerned me. When you were coming home in the rain, remember? The windshield wipers weren't working or something.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness. Let's not think about that. And I had my 6-year-old in the car. Yeah, I had to pull over. I literally was hyperventilating at that time. It was
too,
a bad
when
day.
I heard the story.
It was a bad day. But I'm now in a very safe vehicle. I have now my child can be in my car and we're not going to have any issues. And I can be hands free.
While you're
Check it
talking.
out. I don't really know what's happening because it turns on and off and everything, but it's hands free.
Wow.
At least I could tell the officer, Mr. or Mrs. It's hands free.
It's hands free.
So
Well, we have some more questions that we want to go through here, and that we've got somebody from Hendersonville. I'm not sure what if it's who it is in Hendersonville. It says
talk
frustrated.
about in
in
Hendersonville. Someone's very wealthy in Hendersonville. Did you check that out?
No,
Powerball winner.
You're kidding.
In Hendersonville.
Really?
Yep. It was like $100 and something million and was sold at a small market up there. Amazing.
Kidding.
Yeah, I think it was an older couple, maybe. I don't know all the details, but I do know it was in Hendersonville. So hopefully he reinvests that money right back into his local community.
I hope so.
Yeah, and does something really good about it. But I'm hopeful that it went to a really good family. So there you are. Hendersonville's on the map right now.
Well, frustrated.
National map.
This is from Frustrated in Hendersonville.
Oh goodness.
It says Monty and Carrie. She says Monty and Carrie Anne. We had our home listed recently and it did not sell. I'm not sure that our agent knew what he was doing. The only time he would do an open house was on Saturdays, and he never showed the home himself. After 5 months, there were 14 showings and not one offer. So we took it off the market.
Okay.
If we put the home back on the market with another agent, he said he will still owe us a commission because he put a 90-day carryover clause in our listing.
Oh, they have those? Interesting.
They do have those. Can you please give us some direction? We want to sell and feel like our hands are tied as we don't trust our agent. But I mean, I hate this kind of negative. Well, anyway, thank you, Frustrated, for sending in the question.
Yeah, but I mean, out of that, if you kind of take the negativity, I didn't know that they had those things in the contract. I guess you need to read your full contract before signing, huh?
Yes.
Maybe there's an assumption that it's going to sell prior to, so you just sign it anyways?
The theory there is that, look, I don't want to put all this effort into selling your home, and then you fire me, for instance, and sell the home behind my back to somebody that looked at the house while I had it
Oh, I
listed.
see. Okay.
So that's kind of the theory. So, I mean, theoretically, somebody could go the 90 or 180 days or whatever the listing term is, and somebody see it the day before the listing expired, and then listing expired, and then theoretically come in,
I
okay,
see.
and get that benefit of that transaction that somebody else had earned the right to. So, but here's how it works, Mr. and Mrs. Frustrated. If another agent comes in and lists that property once it's expired, once it's no longer active on the market, the first deal is all done. There is no carryover at that point.
Okay.
Okay. The only time there's a carryover is if you don't relist the property. If you're going to relist it, that ends the relationship of the prior
Oh, okay.
agent.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So if you do choose to move on, then there's no carryover clause.
But typically, an agent will put in some sort of a carryover clause.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally. I believe that if I haven't earned the right for a transaction, and I know that's really trusting.
Yeah.
But my attitude is if we didn't earn the right and get the signature while we had it listed, then we really not do anything. So
And I think that it goes back to kind of some of the things that we talk about, but take a moment and truly interview them, right? Like they're being interviewed for the job. What's your
Right.
plan to sell my home?
Right.
How many times are you going to, see the home?
What's your strategy?
What's your strategy, et cetera?
Now, in your agent's defense, you mentioned here in your note that in your question or your question about I was reading it again here.
Yeah,
He
open
never
house on
he never-
Saturdays
Never
and
showed
stuff.
his home. So First of all, that when I'm hired to list a property, I'm hired to be the marketer of that property, the presenter of that property. I'm going to show it to the world.
Okay.
Now, will I have the buyer for that home? Maybe. I sell maybe 25% of my own listings, but that's not what you're hiring your realtor for. You're hiring your realtor for is to present the home to the world, help negotiate during that transaction, and then help you get to the finish line. It's not necessarily to come up with a buyer. So I think sometimes there's a misnomer within the consumer's mindset that I hired this agent, they're not showing my home, what are they doing for me? Well, they're making sure that everything else is working smooth, okay?
Well, like in new construction, you have like a host, right? Somebody who's walking you through this beautiful, open, game room and this spacious and comfy master bedroom, right? Like they're adding all the flair and they're really selling it, right? It's a show and it's an experience. When it comes to resale, there is the assumption that as maybe a seller, like a client, I assume you're doing that, right? Or that's what I see on TV, and that's not happening. Where the buyer's agent is just walking through and selling them. Where the buyer's agent is not familiar, that's where the listing agent needs to really sell it through all of the different advertisements. Now, I've been into a walkthrough where the listing agent did something really cool where they had explanation cards in each room or posted, or those highlights. I'm surprised there weren't little video clips in each room, maybe somebody will eventually come up with that, but really going the extra mile to sell it. Like you said, I think we sometimes assume what we see on TV may be what happens on a regular basis.
Right. Not so, but anyhow, you can move forward and not have to worry about the last experience. But when you do, again, do the things that we have shared on the show before, and that is interview that person, making sure that they've got a track record and a history and of happy clients.
Yes, we do like happy clients. And, I thought we would talk about a tip that can save and make so many more people happier.
Awesome.
Throughout the mortgage process.
Please,
are you ready for it?
Lay it on.
Okay. Hey, so the lender is going to ask you, what has happened in your life over the last 2 years? So where have you lived and where have you worked? And they're going to ask you for addresses and timelines and phone numbers and job descriptions, et cetera, right? So having that prepped and early and write it all down, after dinner, when you're having your, after dinner drink or something, take a moment and have that prepared, because some folks may have had more than one job in the last 2 years. Some folks may have lived in more than one location in the last 2 years. But again, the more information that you can give the lender and it being very, very clear on the upfront is going to allow for a smoother process and is going to make you get approved so much quicker. So I would just suggest that you take a moment and write that down, because the lender is going to have you fill it out online, or they're going to ask you those questions to verbally communicate through that. So there's been some great questions here.
Carrie Ann. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, you wanted just a quick tip on how to make your mortgage process even smoother. That is it for the week. How about that?
That's coming from the authority.
The authority. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. We have learned a lot, so many great questions. When you get home after your ride tonight, be sure to email us at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com. We love your questions. We can't wait to talk more with you next week. We are here every Sunday at 5. Join us. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.